Have you seen that, or is it still this otherness generation or representation, or is it there more of an understanding that race can be me as well?
I think they've got an understanding that race is everything. Sorry, just 2 seconds.
Sorry, but we really need to use this room for music because all the music writing programs are in here. So can we put you in the back room? Yeah, is that okay? Yeah, sorry to interrupt your recording. No, you're okay, so.
We
Okay, so
probably only have another
How can I make him stop there?
No. Oh, I don't know. I just used that.
One of the interesting things that has come up since you guys have been here in terms of whether or not they identify racially is the kids starting to talk about, oh, well, mum's grandpa is from here, and so starting to actually recognise that. And I went through mine with them on the board as well too, and showed them that. So I think they've started to actually think about themselves in terms of what is their racial background, how do they identify themselves. We've talked about having a cultural identity as well too, so that, and they brought up some fascinating arguments when it came to that, like if you're got Singaporean parents, 2 parents are Singaporean, but you're born in China and then you grow up in Australia. So you're Chinese by birth, but you're actually Singaporean biologically, but you're culturally identified with Australia. So they brought up some really fantastic and very complicated things about that. But the idea that people can choose their own cultural identity in a way as well too, that whether or not they identify themselves with that.
There's been a level of complexity in the responses that the students have given, which we have been a little bit amazed by. They're really quite articulate in terms of the ideas that they're coming up with.
In fact, they compared very favourably with first-year university students.
In fact, we
very
prefer to work with these guys a lot of the time actually. But in terms of that, a couple of them I think noted the aha moment once we covered whiteness, particularly last week, and alluded to it the week prior, and they said that, oh yeah, okay, race isn't just other people, particularly black-skinned people, it is also me, and that then goes with that cultural logic as well, of what that then means. What we're thinking of doing, the next stage in this project, and certainly coming out to uni and having a roam around out there as well, but getting the kids to now think about, well, what can they do to engage, challenge, make problematic racial, particularly negative racial representations in society and other bits and pieces. From your perspective as a classroom teacher, have they actually started to think about how they might challenge these things, or has it been more of just a understanding so far?
They've all, I mean, they keep saying people need to be educated, people need to know, people, and that's not necessarily been articulated in a very specific way of how. The ideas with the postcards and the brochures and the posters and stuff are something that they are quite familiar with. I mean, a lot of things are marketed and aimed at teenagers through mediums like that. So that's some way that they actually see as quite valid to get information across.
So these media are quite...
so it's a format that they're quite...
well, they're familiar with, they're probably literate in terms of receiving and
creating.
Encoding and creating.
So it makes sense then to write back using similar formats.
Because one of the sessions that we've proposed in the little document we have somewhere about the day at USQ, one of the sessions we would look at maybe doing some stuff on, well, how can you activate or deploy a sense of concern? I guess that's where Andrew's going with that question is, has there been are they evincing a concern to want to do something? Whether they know how to do it or not, or whether they actually will, are they evincing that?
I think the blinkers have come off quite a few kids. And even though I think some of the comments you found maybe a little bit flighty or whatever about I hate stereotypes and stuff like that, it's still, I mean, I still think it's coming from a place where they're starting to think, they're starting to address those kind of concerns, and they're actually on the radar for them now, and they've been brought to the fore. That lesson that you did with the circles on the board, where you were looking at the type of language that's used in white and black and dark and light, and even the Star Wars characters and dark riders from the Hobbits and everything, we touched back on that and revised that after you left, and the kids came up with lists of examples of binaries that and out of all kinds of movies and Disney things and that they've seen. And I was just thinking in terms of placement, that would have been like, what is your understanding of race? What is your understanding of ethnicity? Go into that, who are you, blah, blah, blah. that introducing that kind of language prior to them
Early on.
looking at the artefacts they would have the skill set then to actually apply to the artefacts.
Yeah, the fact that there's a couple of new faces working in the classroom as well.
Well, one new and one old.
But the team teaching thing, they've really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I think because there's two of you, and you're bouncing off each other, and I think they don't get two teachers up in front of the classroom at once. So.
Yeah, and a discussion-based pedagogy worked all right, or would it be better off with more activity-oriented stuff? What do you reckon?
They loved the activity stuff.
Yeah.
They really did love that. Like when I was talking to them yesterday, and I said, "So, what was your favourite activity?" Most of them was the cameras or else the pictures.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, they've even mentioned things like having the coloured coloured handouts. I told you that the first thing that's going to be a big deal. They're coloured. We can't afford anything coloured here. So I think
we actually can't either. It's only because we actually have a way of sneaking around the
Just
plot.
don't tell anyone.
Yeah, that's right.
but I think those kind of very subtle differences for them have made the whole process really intriguing. Aside from the content I've been addressing with them, they would be able to do that in a group of their peers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the postcards and the posters and brochures and stuff is a way of them trying to put that together. But I think with extra guidance, they could actually take that even further, which would be quite interesting and reach more.
Like a consciousness raising group or circle or something.
Definitely
Something we could build off
yeah,
that last
sure.
session.
The idea of them, I think them going out to uni is really quite cool and exciting. I ran into a couple of kids this morning and just said, would you be interested in... No. Looked to your eyes. Wow. So...
We've got a proposal there, so we'll give you a copy as well.
Yeah.
And,
Was there anything further you wanted to follow?
no, we should let Fiona